This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia. Listen to my radio show, A Tip from Gilbert. Talk, inspiration, and prayer every Monday from 11 a.m. till noon on Houston's gospel leader, KWWJ. 1360 AM and streaming live on kwwj.org. Listen on the legendary KYOK 1140 AM and streaming live on kyokradio.org. KCOH 1230 AM, The Source on San Geek Radio 95.1 FM 1460 AM and Aliento Radio 101.7 FM and 1540 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. All right, Houston, this is Gilbert Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert with my sidekick, Ruby Dang. There you go. Thank you, studio audience. We are here.
Hi, everyone.
And of course, you know, I don't know, Ruby, it just seems like every time you turn around, somebody's flooding.
Yes.
I mean, I don't understand. When I grew up, you know, coming to the big city was like everything for us. I grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas, and somehow I don't remember Houston flooding all the time. But then all of a sudden, it's like flooding all the time.
It is. I always like to quote the late great Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Little Stevie?
Yes. It's flooding down in Texas.
It's flooding down. Did he say that?
That was his song.
What a genius. It's always flooding. And I was just told that Kingwood was flooded.
Yep.
That they had to Lake Conroe or something get water out and was flooding. I don't know, Houston, but I know one thing. I'm going to have two people that are going to be very special because they had the courage to sue the city. Mm-hmm. And they're two engineers. One of them is Alan Watson and the other one is Bob Jones. And they're the ones, Houston, that put together the whole Rebuild Houston. You know, the thing that we call the rain tax. They're the ones that did all that. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that said, we've got to invest in infrastructure because we flood all the time.
Yep.
So they did that. And then, of course, lo and behold, the last administration, Mayor Turner, was using the money from the rain tax to just use for regular business purposes of the city. So in other words, the rain tax money was not being used on rain.
It was just filling the hole.
Mm. And it went through all sorts of lawsuits, and it looked like they had lost, and then it went on appeal, and they won.
Wow.
Yes. So they're going to be on my show. I'm just looking at my calendar. We've got like all kinds of people booked up. I may have them on May 27th, and they're going to talk about their journey, why we need the rain tax in the first place, and you know what City Hall was doing with the money, and how they feel vindicated. So that's going to be a very, very important show, Houston. And then now I want to bring on.
Well, before we move on, I just wanted to make sure, you know, when you flood, because regrettably many of us have flooded, and you're so worried about rebuilding and getting things back in order, you forget that you can qualify for property tax relief.
Oh,
so
really?
I think you only have, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me, they need to look at this, but if you flooded, I think you have 180 days to file to get some type of relief for your tax city property for that year.
You know what, Houston, I've got to find that out for us because that's an important thing.
Yeah, because, you know, we just you're so stressed and trying to get your life back in order that you forget that. And then you miss the deadline and you're
out of luck.
You're out of luck.
Wow. Well, you know what? We already have Jarvis Johnson on the line. Let's get Representative Johnson on the line. Representative, are you there?
I am here. How you doing?
Representative, you have me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip from Gilbert, and we have Ruby Dang, my sidekick. Soon we're going to have our guest, Representative Thierry, but we got Jarvis Johnson on the line. So, Representative, first of all, tell us, you were on our show. We had the big election. Just remind everybody how this whole thing worked, because I want to make sure people know that it ain't over. In fact, it's just begun. But go through that for us if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Sure. Thank you so much.
Jarvis Johnson's going to go with it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Jarvis. Please go. Keep going.
So yeah, what happened was there was an opportunity. John Whitmire went on to become mayor. He left his seat, the Senate District 15 vacant. So that seat has been vacant since January. And so the law states that you have to have a special election to fulfill the remaining term, which is only 6 months. And so what they ended up doing was squeezing the special election in between the primary, which was March 5th, where I was the leading vote getter, and the runoff, which is going to be May 28th, and they put this special right in the middle on May 4th. And so it had a lot of people confused, had a lot of people just kind of discombobulated and trying to figure out this process and what is happening. And so that the election that we just had on May 4th was just to fulfill the remaining time, which is only a 6-month term. And while I'm not saying that's not an important position to be in at this time, I will say the most important is to be in a 4-year term and not a 6-month term, because there will be no session. There will be no meetings. There won't be any committee hearings. We won't be in session. And so it's basically just a placeholder. But we want to be able to be there in November to take on the Republican to have a 4-year term.
Well, I guess part of me says, and by the way, put me as one of those citizens that was confused. So, Houston, if you were confused, you're not alone. And let me ask you this, Representative. Why is it done that way? Why not just say, well, if we're not in session, nothing's going on, let's just do it all on the 28th or whatever the election is?
Well, common sense would tell you that that's the way it should be done. But unfortunately, common sense is oftentimes common, and common sense does not sometimes align with the law. And so at the end of the day, you have to have a representative in your in that place. You can't just have, a situation, because there could be a potential. The potential, if something happens, that you have to have representation for that particular area, for that community. So, to a certain extent, I get it. But I also believe that it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. I believe that it also kind of disengages people because they get voter fatigue. It's like, we don't really understand what's going on. And so, sometimes you have to take a practical approach to trying to get things done to be more effective. But oftentimes the law doesn't allow you to do that. So,
well, let me ask.
Prefer there be no special election, and we just move right into the runoff, and then right into the general.
Wonderful. Well, Representative, Thierry just arrived, but I want to finish this one or two comments still, Representative Johnson, before we go live with her. And I'd like to bring you back on the show, if you don't mind, because, I went, Houston, to Representative Johnson's election night parties or festivities. And I will tell you, it was such a beautiful thing to see all the kids, all the relatives, and you would have thought that, Representative Johnson had won by, 80 points. People were so upbeat. There was like a whole spiritual overtone. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed being there. I took my wife, and it was a beautiful thing.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And the thing is that the spirit is always going to be when God is on your side, when that there is a God, that you're gonna lean in on God and know what is meant for you is for you. I believe that that this opportunity, being an experienced lawmaker myself, I've been down this road. I understand these things. I know how they work, and so there was no point in being disappointed. There was no point in being upset, because we understand that the race is not over. I believe what this did was just simply light a fire, because there were too many people that continue to say over and over again, oh man, you got this race in the bag. Oh, you got this race in the bag. So they didn't have that urgency. And so I think now the message has been clear. You got to have that urgency all the time when you're involved in politics, because you need to make sure that your people show up to vote. We looked at the numbers, and then we saw where a lot of people didn't show up to vote. I was baffled by the numbers that came out for my opponent. I do know she spread a lot of lies and told a lot of untruths and deceived a lot of people. But she took a page out of the Republican playbook. She started going negative. She started attacking Democrat, a true Democrat and myself, and saying that I'm a MAGA Republican. That's a playbook from the Republicans. And so what she did was got her base engaged and enraged, and they went to the polls. While my base, I stayed focused on the issue. I stayed focused on messaging. I stayed focused on Jarvis. I didn't care about my opponent. That's not what you're supposed to worry about. And so I think my team in this city and this district now understands that these things are consequential. And by the way, brother, thank you so much for showing up. Your beautiful wife, and you guys brought a whole nother level of energy, and I appreciate the support and the love, brother.
You're welcome. Well, I want to have you next week, if you don't mind, if you'd allow us to, because I want to drill down on some things I think the public should know. I got about, 7 or 8 mailers, and she kept hitting on really 3 points. Of course, you hit on one, which is the whole you're a MAGA Republican Democrat, whatever the heck that means. And, people who know you are probably scratching their heads saying, how can you possibly say such a thing? But at the end of the day, I want to go through these things so you can dispel a lot of these things and really set the record straight. It's okay, Houston, vote however you want, but at least vote with the right information and don't be deceived.
That's right. That's what campaigns are supposed to be about, and that's why I tell people all the time: this is politics, not politrick. And what my opponent is doing is politricking. She's deceiving people, telling untruths. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. But at the end of the day, the community does need to be informed because, I was in a boxing match thinking, okay, we have rules, and she was in a bar brawl, throwing boxes and chairs and hitting people in the back of the head, and just cheating. And so, we're going to definitely set the record straight, and we're going to be very clear so that the voters can make a decision, because this is why voters get disengaged, because they're tired of these politicians wanting to be politicians with the lies, and people just kind of throw their hands up. So, brother, I appreciate you getting the information out, the truth, and let's clear it up. Well,
we're gonna spend.
Boy, I tell you, one day if I can ever get into a real debate where we can have the real conversation, that would be something to watch. I tell you.
Well, I tell you what, we're gonna get her on the show. I'll get you on the show, and maybe we should invite her. But at the end of the day, we're gonna have you on the show. You'll be back next week. So Houston, you got it. We're going to have Representative Johnson back because you know what? We got to know what is going on. And so, Representative, I will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, brother. Thank you. Take care. Have a great show.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So Representative Thierry, who's now with me in the audience live. And now we didn't get a chance to go through everything. So you and I are going to look this way.
Okay.
That camera's going to be on you the whole time. Okay. So whenever you're ready to talk to Houston, you just look in that camera. That one's on me, but I'm not going to really look at it. We got lots of callers, lots of things going on. So let me ask you this. What I really want to know is, what got you involved running for office in the first place? Tell me about you. Was it your parents? What happened?
Thank you, Gilbert, and thanks to all the listeners for welcoming me today. It's really been a long journey. I would like to say my parents, they're the greatest influences in my life. And so from the time I was a little girl, they were very active. I think you and I have chatted about the fact that my mom was a civil rights activist. She marched with Barbara Jordan at Texas Southern University. She helped integrate the lunch counters downtown.
Wow.
When Black people could not sit at the lunch counter at Woolworth's. There was a drugstore that the Black college kids were not allowed to sit at the lunch counter, Black people, period. So she helped integrate those. She helped integrate the movie theaters, or back when African Americans could only sit in the balcony. Wow. And so I guess from a very, very, young age, I started to hear these stories from the time I was really 4 or 5 years old. And so it always inspired me and taught me that you cannot be passive. You can't sit back silent and expect the right thing to happen. And so I was always active and speaking out about things. And then I went to law school at Howard University. And I came back and went to went to law school undergrad. Well, went to Howard undergrad, law school, TSU, and started practicing law. And then so many people started reaching out to me and saying, Rep. Thierry, you're a great lawyer. You should be more active. Maybe you should be a judge. Maybe you should be a state rep. And I said, I don't know about that, but let's see. And
Wow.
I started listening to the people, and I guess I answered the call.
Wow. Well, Ruby, just thinking about it, can you imagine these sorts of times that was normal?
I know.
People thought that was normal.
That wasn't long ago. So,
That's right.
gosh, we all have to be grateful and thankful for all the work folks did, including your mom. I mean,
Yeah,
that's an incredible story. I had no idea.
My dad, when he was a realtor, he was told he could only sell to the Mexicans, and he could only sell the little Mexican houses to the Mexicans, and he could not work from the office. He had to work from his home because they said that they didn't want him to scare the white clientele.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Wow.
And that was legal. That's just unbelievable. Boy, your mom's amazing.
Well, and I'll tell you this, even in our lifetime, my brother was born in 1965. And my mom said when he was born, my parents, there was only one park that Black people could go to in Houston. I think it was on the north side. They could not go to Herman Park.
Come on.
In this lifetime, the only day that you could go was on Juneteenth.
Wow. These are the things, Houston, that we've got to remember, because until you remember where you came from, you don't know where you're going. And that is why when people say, oh, why are we even worried about this, affirmative action? Are you kidding me? The biggest affirmative action is for the privilege. And so we've got to always stand up, and we got to stand tall, because if you notice, everything's kind of going backwards again. And that is why we just cannot let it happen. We already have a caller for you. Okay. Who is that? Is there a Linda on the line?
Hi. Well, Gilbert, actually, my question is for you.
Oh, my goodness,
because
Linda.
It was on Jarvis Johnson.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, Jarvis Johnson, I live in the Riverwood community subdivision. And our subdivision, every time you turn around, 1 minute we're in Shayla Jackson Lee's District 18, the next minute we're in somebody else's. 1 minute. This time I didn't see Jarvis Johnson on our ballot, and I could have sworn that I was in Whitmire's district for senator. I've been in it several times before, and I said, you got to tell me who I call, because I don't see a phone number or anything. Because what happened? I vote every time.
Well,
I bring people to the polls.
Well, amen for you. It's just one of those things that, and Representative can probably say it better than I can, but of course the census comes out, where the federal government goes and essentially counts on everybody, et cetera, et cetera. So the census comes out, and then that's when they look to say who all is in what district. And some people lose seats, some people gain seats, whether it's in the Congress and everything else. And so they have a committee that does redistricting. And I believe it happens every 10 years. And that's when they say we need to rebalance because we need to make these seats better or worse or just more balanced. So my hunch is they redistricted you out of his district. Representative, is that generally how it goes?
Out of Whitmire's district, because
That's right.
that was I understand what you felt was happening to you with the mayor thing, which is an old political trick. But when he brings in a cadre of people and you're not included in the thingamajig. But Whitmire has been on the point for teachers, but it's just, they said when North Forest closed, well, where was he? Well, half the time, Sheila Jackson Lee and we weren't districted to them. Next thing you know, we were districted to them. Then when they show up to our meetings, then we're out of the district. And it didn't happen every 10 years. It happened whenever. I don't know what's happening with Texas, because it's in the courts all the time. They're gerrymandering.
Yes, and if you look at the district now, it's this weird horseshoe. It's like an upside down U, and so I hear you, and I totally get it. and I feel your pain. But we've got to have more sense in these districts that when we do them. Representative, anything you want to opine on that?
We had a big fight.
I voted. Thierry's in the Southwest. It's in Southwest, right?
Yes, ma'am. Southwest and Southeast.
Yeah. Okay. And when I send out my thing to teachers, retired teachers, and everything, I send out an email to them. You made my list. Okay.
Well, God bless you. God bless
Only
teachers.
You made the list.
Tell your mother. I don't care what. I don't care what they said. My mother had me picket on Linden Boulevard in Queens, New York, the back door of F.W. Woolworth. Okay, because
Yes, ma'am.
she had nobody. People wouldn't show up. Okay, so I remember people wouldn't show up or say they were going to be there. They weren't there. She needed someone on the back door, and I was it.
Well, God bless you for that. And you know what else? My mom must be your spirit animal. She's also a retired teacher. She was the first African-American teacher to integrate Sharpstown Junior High School.
Wow.
And she had to go in with police protection.
Wow.
My mother's dead now. I'm a little older than you, and she died at 97, registered nurse out of Tuskegee, Alabama. And when she came up during the Northern Migration, World War II, they told her, her nurse's aide told her that she would not work for Negroes, and she didn't say Negroes. And the woman never lost her job or anything. Mother just had to do the job of nurse's aide and the rest of it in New Jersey. So thank you so much.
Miss Linda, call me later offline. I think I'd like to have you a guest on my show. You've got so much institutional knowledge. I think it'd be wonderful to talk about it.
Well, thank you. It's hard, but thank you so much. And thank you, Miss Thierry, and thank you for holding. We had the two people, Penny Marshall Morales, come to the Community Voices for Public Education. And I told her, I heard you on Gilbert. And she said, Gilbert, yes.
Well, thank you, Miss Linda, for all that you do. You are why you're why we're doing this. We're fighting for people like you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling in.
The reason why I'm doing it.
Amen.
Okay, bye-bye.
Amen.
Okay.
Boy, what a saint she is. No, think about that. I mean, when you hear these stories, Ruby, about people, I mean, you know, it's horrifying to think about. You could not sit somewhere. You could not go somewhere. You couldn't go to the park. You couldn't enjoy the movie theater. And how did people think that was normal? It's just unfathomable to me.
Yeah.
And that's why our kids, we got to make sure they know it, so it never happens again. We got another caller there, I thought. Was there an Eric? Is there an Eric? I thought there was an Eric. If not, I'm sure you'll call back.
Okay.
Eric? Okay, I'll transfer you to Gilbert. One moment.
Eric, are you there?
He is there.
Eric. Eric.
Hey, Mr. Garcia, how are you?
Good. Eric, what do you got for me on a tip from Gilbert today? Talk, inspiration, and prayer with Representative Shawn Thierry and my sidekick, Ruby Dang. And by the way, Eric, you may not know, but you're covering all of Houston right now. You're on on KWWJ, KYOK, KCOH, Aliento Radio, and Sangeet, all right now. What do you got for us?
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to call in. I'm passionate about where I grew up, which is the east end of Houston, Magnolia Park. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because, as you may know, it's changing just like a lot of neighborhoods across the country. Gentrification, the big G word that we don't like to talk about, but we all know affects people that are from the neighborhood. So we're doing something in the neighborhood. We're trying to do something about it. And what we're doing is saying, hey, the development that's happening, all that wealth creation, maybe people from the neighborhood can do it too. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to call in and kind of get your thoughts on.
Well, tell us what you're doing.
We're creating a 1 acre food maker campus, which means we're not only going to have restaurants there and, coffee shop, some other food and beverage concepts. We'll have space for pop-ups in the form of containers out on our patio. We're redeveloping these 2 old buildings that I walked into one 35 years ago because they sold, lawnmower equipment with my grandfather. And that's how old these buildings are. They're from 1925 and 1940. We're making a space that is called a shared commercial kitchen, kind of like a commissary for food trucks, but this is for bakers and caterers and folks that want to be in the food and the culinary arts, and they want to learn how to run their own restaurant. And so we're creating space for potentially an incubator for these food entrepreneurs. So
very interesting. Well, how's it going?
So right now we're speaking to folks that are part of our investor group, part of our fund.
Did I lose him?
Gilbert, I wanted to
go.
jump in a little bit on that issue with the gentrification. That's been something I've been very, very active on because I hear it a lot on my side of the district. So Southeast Houston, where I represent, Sunnyside, historic communities like Sunnyside and Third Ward there's a lot of development going on over there.
Right.
The one thing that people don't realize that really hurts the longtime residents is it causes their property taxes to rise. And so historic homeowners, seniors are getting priced out of their homes because if people, hey, great, you built a Starbucks over here. But if you build a tri-level loft, right, that's $450,000 now or $600,000 across from Mrs. McGillicuddy's house, who bought her house in 1964 for $50,000, and maybe now it's only worth $110,000. Her property taxes are still going to be impacted by that $700,000 house.
Very interesting.
And so, what I did this session, I'm proud to be and privileged to be the vice chair of the Ways and Means Committee.
Wow.
And so as a Black woman, that's a big deal. And so that committee handles all of the revenue for the state of Texas.
Yeah. Just to be clear, Houston, I think, in my opinion, some of the key committees are the appropriations, which is the people that spend the money, the rules committee, which is to make sure they know what can be brought forward, and the Ways and Means, which is all the taxing. Is that right?
Yes, because most people don't realize the only way we have a budget for appropriations is through tax collection.
Yep.
So it's sales tax, oil and gas tax, and franchise taxes. So this year, I was able to work very, very hard to provide a $100,000 homestead exemption to every homeowner in the state of Texas. And what that means is it used to be $40,000. So now, if you're a homeowner, which I assume you probably are, you used to get a $40,000 tax credit, meaning that you don't pay taxes on the first $40,000 of your house. Now you don't pay on the first $100,000.
Oh, how great.
So that will help people like Eric in his community that just called in. If he wants to be a first-time homeowner, that's going to help him. If he already owns a home, if his parents own a home, his grandparents. Actually, and there's more good news. If you're over 65 or disabled, you're going to get $110,000. And so that is really why we were in special session for 3 sessions.
Wow.
We were fighting about that back and forth. And we finally got it done. It was a bipartisan bill, which means Democrats and Republicans all agreed together that this was going to be for the best interests of all homeowners in the state of Texas.
Well, most people know me as I am what's called, Ruby, a yellow dog Democrat.
Yes.
And what's interesting is I've always been a progressive, or so they say, until the progressives say I'm not a progressive enough. I mean, I don't really know where I am. But at the end of the day, I think that I admire you is you can go in there with a lot of chutzpah and this and that. But if you don't get anything done, what good are you?
Yeah,
that's right.
And so the only way you're going to get things done is you got to work with other people, not just in your own party, but across the aisle, especially now with the House being under Republican control, the Senate, the governor. You've got to be able to work with everybody to get something done. That's what you do.
Well, that's right. That's the only way. I mean, I assume that our constituents send us all the way to Austin, driving back and forth from Houston to Austin multiple times a week because they want us to come home with something. They want us to deliver. And so if you get up there and you just sit, or, you can throw rocks, but they got bombs, so you have to find a way to work together so you can make real results for real people. And I'll say to the next caller that calls in, I'll give them a prize if they can call in and tell me how many Democrats there are in the Texas House and how many votes you have to pass a bill. That's our next
Oh
question.
my
for our
God, that's a
next
good
caller.
one. That's a good. Now watch, Eric's gonna know. Eric,
I was gonna say,
are you back, Eric?
I am back. I apologize. Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
I would say on the Democrat side, I know it's less, maybe 60.
Close, not quite yet.
Okay. But, honestly, in terms of what was the second part of that
The
question?
second question is how many votes do you need to pass one bill, even one bill?
I do not know.
Okay, I'm going to give you a.
No, don't say it yet. Let's see some of it. I want to know
We're
that.
going to hold out. I'll give it. Look, I got a $20 gas card.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
calls in.
No, and what's interesting is I know one thing. It is so easy to kill a bill. But boy, it is so hard to get a bill into law.
Right.
It is. I mean, and I think at the beginning of the year, there's probably a couple of thousand bills that are, sort of what do you call it, signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's only so many laws that get passed.
Right.
Very interesting. All right, Eric, go ahead and finish up your thought there, pal.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I was going to say, I think for gentrification, there is no silver bullet. As you can see from a legislative perspective, we're doing things on that front. From a homegrown grassroots perspective, we're trying to do things on that front. I think it's going to take all of that and more, because if there was a silver bullet for gentrification, we wouldn't be talking about it. And right now, our approach is create more ownership within the local area. And so our fund is devoted to making sure that all of our investors are from the East End. We're even reserving a portion of what we're doing so that people, because the way it works now, you can do crowdfunding for equity through Regulation CF. We'll have that in the future before we open doors that allows people from the neighborhood to participate and actually be equity owners in what we're doing. We have to think differently about ownership and as it relates to, wealth creation in the future. That's our approach.
I think that's wonderful because it's all about wealth creation and to continue to have, wealth creation in your family and your family lineage. That's how, the man has been able to do it all these years because they got everything and they bring it down to the kids and then they pay very little estate taxes. And that's what's incredible because they know how to do it. And it's time that we learn as well. Eric, thank you for calling in.
Likewise. Thank y'all for having me. Appreciate all the work y'all are doing. Thank you again.
Thanks, Eric.
Take care.
So, Representative, let's go back. So, I know we have another caller coming. So, your mom inspired you, and I can see why. And people say, boy, you're really a smart lawyer. You should probably run. So, you decided to run. When did you first run?
I ran in 2010 for judge. I was by profession a civil lawyer. And so that was right after the big blue wave in Harris County in 2008 when Obama got elected, our first Black president. So 2 years later was the midterms. And a lot of folks came to me and they said, Representative, we really need a smart, pragmatic, sharp judge who's going to look at it from all sides and help everyday people. And so they asked me to run. I did. I won the primary. I won my Democrat primary.
Right.
And, but I'll tell you what happened. I don't know if y'all remember, there was a backlash in Harris County for the blue wave. They called it the tsunami. And every Democrat that won in 2008 almost got voted out. That was when the beginning of the MAGA, it wasn't really MAGA then, but they all started coming out as a backlash about us having an African-American president. So in 2010, Harris County went completely back red. And so I didn't win the general. And a lot of the sitting judges that were in Harris County, they all got swept out of office.
Wow.
So that was that time. And so I guess I should have run in 2008 versus 2010. But then in 2012, we started turning it back around. So it's been a long journey.
But did you then run for judge again? Or that's when you ran for rep? State representative.
I kind of went on back to private practice for a long time, kept working, kept still being active in the community. And then in 2016, another court opened up. It was a family court and it was created and they needed a judge. And so some folks came to me once again and said, Rep Thierry, you did it in 2010. It wasn't the best opportunity because of the backlash. We need you. We want you to come back. So I said, okay, this was a special election with precinct chairs, however. So I ran for that seat. Well, I ended up not winning, I guess I'll call it that, versus losing by 2 votes.
Oh my goodness.
It was a weird thing that happened that night. Everybody had said, I won. You could see it. It's a weird kind of election. It's called, have you ever heard of called division of the House?
Was that where you like, all the people for her go over here and all the people for him go over there?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
It's like old school.
Yes,
yes.
that's what they do in caucus states for the president.
So that's how that
It's very intimidating because then people know, aha, you're with him or you're with her.
Yes, you can eyeball who's for you right then and there. So there were about 6 people running. And when I got in the race, it was just me and maybe one other person. And it got real big crowded field. And they said, division of the House, walk to who you're for.
Oh my goodness.
So the sea, it was like the Red Sea parted though, Gilbert. All these folks came over to me and I just couldn't believe it. They were chanting my name. I put my face in my hands. I was like, oh my God. So they were like, winner, she won. It was just, they're like, we don't have to count. She won. Would you believe, once again, just how you talk about back in those caucus days, some people on the other side were screaming and said, no, we need a recount. Hold up. Everybody's not in the room.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And I was like, wait, what? What's happening?
They're dragging people from, the Starbucks.
That's exactly what happened.
I know.
Oh my God. So they did some kind of pause and I was like, wait, what's happening here? And then they started pulling people in from the outside saying they hadn't signed up yet. And then people started fighting. And I was like, oh my God. It went on for 3 hours.
Oh my God.
For 3 hours.
That's longer than the movie The Matrix. I mean, right? Am I right? That's like a long movie.
Well, I kind of had a very bad feeling when I saw that happening. I knew it. And my dad, I didn't get to talk a lot about my dad. He's just my number one fan, such a great guy. My dad came to Texas from Louisiana and he pulled me over to the side. And he said, honey, let me tell you something. This is what I don't like about politics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I can tell you right now, you won. He goes, but they're not going to let you leave here with the victory.
Yeah.
Right.
And he said, winning and the victory are 2 different things.
Mm-hmm.
And would you believe, my dad was right. They kept doing recount after recount after recount after recount until suddenly they said I had lost by 2 votes.
Wow.
And so there I was again saying, well, and so I accepted my fate. I knew kind of the fix was in on that deal. There was a little bit of people saying, well, she was a civil lawyer. She did family law, but people who only practice family law should be family law judges, which is not how it works.
Right.
So fast forward about a week later, my phone was still blowing up from all those supporters. They were in tears still. They were like, we got robbed. I mean, they were heavily invested and I understood that. So I told everybody, I said, tell you what we're going to do. We need some closure here. I know everybody's hurt. I'm going to throw up a party, so to speak, just to say I'm grateful, just to say thank you for supporting me. And it's called Gumbo and Grace. I told you I was from Louisiana.
Gumbo and Grace.
So we had this big gumbo and I just wanted to just give grace to them and to God for just having the opportunity. And right then, though, at the same time, Senator Miles, then State Rep Miles, was running for Senate District 13.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ellis, who was Senator Ellis at the time, was running for county commissioner. So I think Rodney had already maybe won his seat. This seat for Boris was open.
Right.
Out of nowhere, guys, it was like something out of a movie. I'm bidding my adieu, saying thank you to everyone. And a 94-year-old constituent, Ms. Dorothea Pendleton, I remember, she yells out, no, I had a dream last night. Hand before God. And she said, I'm looking at your push card, Ms. Thierry. It says justice delivered at the courthouse. God told me you're going to deliver justice at the State House.
Wow.
And she said, if Boris Miles wins that seat, you're going to be the next state representative for House District 146. Hand before God.
Wow.
And I was
That's
like,
an incredible story.
I was like, what? And so I'm looking from left to right. And then they started all over again. Theory.
Wow.
And so I said, I don't know if I can do this, guys. My family, I put them through a lot with that last. We were all so hurt. So I said, I probably need to run in secret. I didn't want anybody to know.
Well, because remember, it's a big difference, not about the workload, but to be a judge here versus now you got to go be in Austin all the time. And in Houston, for people who don't know, when it's during session, I mean, all hell breaks loose. in the legislature.
Yeah.
And you think, well, they're only part-time. They only work 6 months or whatever it is. Let me tell you, it's intense. I know state reps that are there and they don't leave the floor till 1 o'clock in the morning and they sleep in their audience and then they're back the next day. It's intense. Am I right?
No, you're absolutely right. It's sometimes 3 in the morning and then we're called to come right back to the floor at 8 a.m. I always say a day in legislative session is like a week. A week is like a month, and a month is like a year. So if you say, "Oh, I'll call you tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow," well, that's a week gone by.
That's right.
If you say, "I'll call you in a week," well, you just wasted a month.
That's right.
And if you say, "I'll do it next month," well, come back to the next.
Holy cow!
Yeah, it's over. It's over for you.
No, it's very intense. We got another caller. Is there an Ernie on the line? Was there an Ernie? Ernie, is that you?
Yes. Hey, Gilbert.
Ernie,
Hello,
what do you got for us today on a tip from Gilbert?
I'm so excited that you have Representative Thierry and hi, Ruby.
Hey, Ernie.
Zane, I just think everything y'all are talking about is so important, and I am definitely helping with the campaign for Mr. Jarvis Johnson as well. And I wanted to say thank you, Gilbert, because your ability to keep everyone aware in the community is so vital, especially at this time. And you always support the nonprofit world. And today, your discussion about how important community services are. I've heard it from all of y'all. Y'all have been talking about the importance of community support. Gilbert has been just amazing in that effort. And this past week, the Latin Women Initiatives raised over, $200,000 for community services, and over the years they've raised over $3 million in supporting communities. So Gilbert has a lot to do with that by supporting groups like that. And one of the funding went to Avance. I wanted y'all to know that because Avance is a group that is helping families with services from food needs to education. Financial opportunities with banks in areas like Sunnyside, in areas like Magnolia, East End, all of those. Avance has over 20 locations around where families can go and get services that they need with no money down. They just start getting these services. So those are the kinds of things that Gilbert does and helps support. So I really want the community to know that, and also if you know of people who need services, to reach out to Avance. They just were a recipient of the funding that was created by the Latin Women's Initiative.
You know what, Ernie, why don't you reach out, do me a favor, why don't you reach out to the folks and let's get through this election here this month and let me get them on my show.
That would be.
Did I lose you, Ernie?
They're really doing some important
things.
I
think it'd be good to talk about it.
And then also, Gilbert, please keep the rally going for Mr. Johnson, because I'm doing my best to rally some of our Hispanic leaders. I just feel that we really need to be a voice for him in order to get him to be elected.
Well, Ernie, thank you for that. And I really appreciate all that you do for the city. And I hope you call in again. And do me a favor, I really mean it. Let's get those guys on here from Avance.
I will make it happen.
Thank you, lady.
Thank you. And thank you, Representative Thierry.
Thank you for all you're doing. And I was going to say, my district office is in the Sunnyside Multipurpose Center, 4410 Reed Road. I'm on the second floor. Every day we have people from the community there. The seniors are there, different groups of folks. Maybe one day we can get together and kind of plan a workshop.
Amen.
And they can kind of educate some of the people that are there, because our community is right there every day.
Thank you. That will be great. I'll reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. So let me come back, Representative. So what are the big issues in the race for you? You're in a runoff. And what are the big issues and how you feeling and all those things? And before today ends, I want to make sure you give us your website and, everything. Any events you're having, phone number, etc.
Well, I guess there's nothing new under the sun, much like my brother, Jarvis Johnson, Rep. Johnson. I'm going through the same thing from my opponent. There are pictures, Photoshop pictures being put out of me by my opponent's campaign, cropping me in with Governor Abbott.
Come on.
Calling me a MAGA Republican as well. It's just horrible. There is literally a picture where I'm in the room with the dean of the Democrats, Senfronia Thompson, Donna Howard, one of the most progressive Democrats in the House, and two other, Tony Rose and Cheryl Cole, four progressive women, while we are passing a bill to extend Medicaid to low-income pregnant mothers. You can't get more progressive than that.
Right.
It has been an issue that I've championed since I was a freshman. And so we were getting a bill signed. People do know, in order for it to be a law, the governor has to sign it.
Right.
He does not vote, by the way, on bills. And my opponent took everybody out of the picture and cropped me and tried to put me like almost face to face with Governor Abbott and said birds of a feather flock together. And she's put out over 30,000 mail pieces with that. And so that's why I'm in a runoff. Like it's that message, as Rep. Johnson said, it's politics. And sometimes they're trying to take advantage of people's fears. And it is a play from the Republican playbook. And I'm surprised and disappointed that anyone who would call themselves a Democrat would do something like that, because you're actually trying to play on the lack of knowledge in our community. And so that's what's happened to me quite a bit.
And how do you fact check someone? Is it the Chronicle fact checking? It'd be a great story to say, this is what this person is doing, and look at this AI or whatever you want to call it, or Photoshop, and this isn't even real.
No.
My goodness.
Well, it's forced me to have to go out and just do it myself. At grassroots. I've had to make flyers with that picture. I'll put all my great work on the front because, I don't want to go negative. I want to talk about all the accomplishments that I've had. Passing the panic button bill. First time in the state of Texas, every public school will have silent panic alert technology. It's called the Alyssa's Law. And that's something that I did. It took me multiple sessions to get it done. And so I talk about that. I talk about property taxes, talk about giving teacher pay raises, protecting the elderly, voting rights. But on the back of the flyer, I have to say, have you seen this? And it's usually it's that horrible photo. And then I show the real, but I didn't bring it.
Oh, right.
I know, I should have brought
it on air right now.
I know, I should have. Wait, actually, it may be in my
I want to, we want to see it.
I'll come back next time and show it. It is ridiculous. And so now we have block walked houses. We've passed it out to everybody you can think of. And so the message is getting out there. I did hear that my opponent was somewhere the other day and she handed that. It's on our push cards on election day. Most people, you would think their message is about them.
Yeah, just vote for me.
Yeah, no, it's me. My face is on the front of the card. My face is on the landing page of the website. And so it said, stop Shawn Thierry. She's best friends with Governor Abbott, and had that photo. So she passed it out recently, and I heard a lady say, fake lies. Fake news. I know about that picture, but they've doubled down on it. I was block walking, and a lady, the first house, and this was just I'm a woman of faith, and I just have to believe that things will work out when you do the right thing. A lady opened her garage right when I was getting ready to go to her door, and she said, Shawn Thierry? And I was like, yes, because I didn't know if she was a supporter or not. And she gave me a big hug, and she said, let me show you something. And she opened her trash can, and she said, look what just came in. And it was a mailer from my opponent that had another picture of me with my face all cropped and other pictures. And she said, you see where it is? It's in the trash. And I said, well, can I have it? Because I need to take a look at this. And so, those are the issues in my race. Instead of talking about what you're going to do, it's just this whole thing about, well, I'm going to link her to Governor Abbott, because we know in the Black community, the only person that people are more opposed to than Trump is they'll say Governor Abbott.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a tactic. I've heard folks say that, they think that African-American voters are ignorant about this. And so they're just playing on that. And so I say no, and we're getting our message out that we are not to be manipulated with manipulated photos.
I think that's the pits.
Yeah.
That is low down.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It shouldn't even be legal somehow, right?
I feel like it isn't.
And plus they get pictures of you when you're like all ugly in the face, and then they blow you up.
Well, some of them, one of the ones I saw recently is two different events. It's just my picture and then another picture, and they just swapped it together. And so it doesn't have to be real. I will tell you as a lawyer, since there's a very high threshold for public figures, which I'm considered a public figure, to be able to sue for slander.
Wow.
It's almost, you really can't.
Wow. Hold that thought. We have a Cindy on the line. Cindy, are you there? Cindy. Let's put in Cindy there for us, team.
She's there.
Cindy, you there?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Cindy. You have me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip from Gilbert and Shawn Thierry, our great state representative. And we have my sidekick, Ruby Dang. What do you got there, Cindy?
Hi, I just actually had a question listening for a while. And what do you guys, as far as like, you know, like for my niece, younger generations, minorities, wanting to get into politics, wanting to become lawyers, wanting to become doctors, things, you know, getting into the workforce, what kind of advice do you have for minorities that are struggling? You know, their parents didn't go to college, you know, things like that. I feel like you guys have touched on that a few times in the show, and just curious your opinions.
Well, thank you for that. Representative, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to say, you know, that's such a, I'm so glad that you asked that question. My family always said education is the great equalizer. So, and it starts in our elementary schools. That's what we're hearing about with HISD. We want our kids to be reading on grade level. And so whether you're parents, whether you're a first generation person to go to college or second, it starts there. And so I like to say that just making sure that our young kids have all of the opportunities. Right now, unfortunately, I just read that HISD, the superintendent, is trying to cut the wraparound specialist services. And what that means is all those extra services for lower income communities where they're able to provide that breakfast, lunch. Sometimes they even come in and they help wash clothes, do all sorts of things, providing access to kids. So one, we on our end have to continue to fight for all those services. And then I would say, make sure, you know, you stay engaged with community organizations. There's so many organizations right in your neighborhood. Every neighborhood I go to, they're available. And sometimes I show up at the meetings, there are only 5 or 6 people there. And so it lets me know that one, we have to do a better job of getting the word out, but two, get engaged. You can walk in some of these meetings and there's a scholarship waiting for you right there. Top Teens of America for African Americans, they give out scholarships. I am part of the organization called Top Ladies, TLOD, Top Ladies of Distinction. We give out scholarships to students all over Houston, Missouri City, Galveston. So we just need to find the kids to join. So there are a lot of opportunities right here in our communities. You don't have to go outside of the community. And as far as getting in politics, all you got to do is start. You started today by calling this show.
Yep.
You know, and that's it.
And you know, I will tell you also, when you go vote, take your kids. Start teaching them early about what it means to vote so they can feel an obligation to vote. Because listen to the stories of Representative Thierry's family and the lineage and so forth. People struggled for that right. So hopefully we answered your question, but thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I want to get one more caller in because believe it or not, we're almost at an hour. Okay. I want to get, there's another caller I thought I saw. Producer, if you could just, let me see that sign. Yes, there is. There's a Julia. Is there a Julia on the phone? Julia.
Hi, I had a question for Ms. Thierry. Y'all were talking earlier about the gentrification in the Sunnyside. I was just wondering, is there anything to help protect the people in those communities?
Well, a couple of things. Like I said, one way is to be able to allow them to stay in their homes so they don't get priced out of their homes, Julia. So that's one thing.
In other words, the big exemption that you did for $100,000.
The property tax exemption is going to be huge. It's already in effect. We've also been looking at things. I filed a bill multiple sessions. It's called the Historic Homeowner Preservation Bill. And so what we're trying to do, the governor has not allowed that bill to get through. So obviously, if I was really best friends with the governor, every bill I had would go through. So I want people to know my bills don't always go through. And what we're trying to do is carve out districts that we know have historic homeowners from minorities and take a portion of the property taxes that they pay and reinvest it back in that area to do like land banks and land trusts so that they can also stay in the community. And so they did it in Austin. It actually passed in Austin. I filed the bill multiple times to try to bracket Houston back in. It's never worked, but it's a way of us reinvesting back in our own communities to help our homeowners be able to live and thrive and work and worship in our own communities.
Amen. Well, Julia, hopefully that answers your question. And thank you so much for calling in. And I don't mean to cut you short, but we're running out of time. And thank you, Julia.
Yeah, thank you.
There was an old show, Ruby, called Carol Burnett.
Yep.
And at the end, there was that song, I'm so glad we had this time together.
Yes.
Remember all that? Well, guess what? Representative, it's been an hour.
Well, thank you.
Can you believe
amazing.
it? I want to make sure you have the last words. And, you know, we can't, I mean, it's one thing for people to vote for someone or someone else, and that's okay, right? But it's not okay for someone to slander, make up a bunch of stuff that's not right, doctor photos, say, lie about the record. That's, in my view, going too far. And if they're willing to do that, what are they going to do when they're in office? Think about that for a second, Ruby. If you're willing to doctor a photo and you're willing to just like do anything to get in, you know what? You're probably going to cut corners, and we'll probably be reading about you doing something you're not supposed to be doing someday in the future. Tell us, I want you to give the whole wrap. Where are we? What's the website?
Okay.
What's your everything?
Okay, here's the skinny.
Go.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Time flies when you're having fun. I do want to do one plug. There's something big going on in the community this Saturday. It's called the Faith Walk. You heard it here first. It's supposed to be announced tomorrow at a press conference. I'm going to let Gilbert Garcia break the news. It's called We're Standing with Shawn. It's a day of action, and over 20 African-American pastors are going to be having their parishioners show up, and we're going to show out, and we're doing a Christian community block walk in District 146 this Saturday, Sunnyside Park.
Oh, great.
We're standing with Shawn. We hope to have over 200 constituents in the community. We are going to tell the truth and shame the devil, as we say in the 146, and get the word out. We're going to let people know that the runoff, the early vote, is May 20th through May 24th. We're going to let people know that election day in this runoff is May 28th, the day after Memorial Day. So don't eat too much barbecue.
Yeah.
I need you to wake up and exercise your right to vote.
And when does early vote start?
May 20th through May 24th.
So May 20th, Ruby, that's what? Two weeks from now.
It's a short time, you all. It's a short time. So we are grinding. We're getting the word out. So come to the Faith Walk, you all. We want everyone from all faiths, even though we said a Christian community. That's because these are the folks that have taken the initiative to do this. I've been endorsed by over 500 of these pastors.
Wow.
The 20 leaders here have taken the bull by the horns and said, hey, we're going to get the word out. We want people to know the truth. We want a representative that's going to be our voice and represent our values. We don't need outsiders coming in telling us how to feel and what our values are. And so they're standing with me because I've stood for them and stood for us. And I'm so grateful. But come on out Saturday, 11 a.m. Gilbert, I wasn't supposed to tell, and you got the breaking
I'm
news.
so glad. Listen,
you got it first.
What? I'm going to see if I'm around because I want to go because I think it'd be fun.
Yes.
When you do these things, you know what? They're just fun.
That's right.
And you're doing good. So I know we got 2 minutes to go is what I'm told. We'll play the end song at the end. And I just want to say that I had a blast this weekend because my daughter, of course, everyone knows Juju is the apple of my eye, had her concert, her last choir concert. And I mean, she was so beautiful, Ruby. And all I can tell you is she's getting to be like a woman or something. I don't know what's going on.
They grew up fast.
She's my daughter, but I'm looking at these boys. They're looking at her, and I want to say, quit looking at my daughter. But oh my God, she's just so amazing, and they were so beautiful. And so, do you have children?
I have one baby girl, Claire.
Oh my
Claire
goodness!
there, my daughter. This is my little girl here.
Oh my God! I don't know if you can zoom in
I
here.
gotta get some big pictures of Claire.
Yes. How old is she?
She's 11.
Oh my
She was 4
goodness.
years old when I started the house. I had her on my hip when I got sworn in the office, and now she's an old pro at the text ledge. She sits in my seat when it's time to vote. She throws up a 1 if it's yes, a 2. She knows all the ropes.
Oh my God! You know what that means? You're already teaching her to get involved.
Yep.
That is so beautiful. Well, Houston, you heard it here first. Please, please vote, and don't forget May 11th. We have the whole faith walk, where you can go out, have a blast. A lot of these pastors, I know of a couple of them, including Pastor Miller, of course, who's wonderful, an amazing pastor. They're going to be at 11 a.m. at Sunnyside Park. Be there. And I'm Gilbert Garcia saying we're going to see you next time.
That was good. 1 hour. The mad dash. My God.
Are we off there, Mr. Producer? All right, Houston. Don't forget to vote.